Right. Good morning, everyone. This is our last online session, 6. I'm going to talk today about the introduction section, and I'm going to give you a quick presentation regarding the workshop on the 11th of March. And then we got some time to do a Q&A. So if you got any questions regarding the course, the homework, we got some time to clarify things today. As usual, I need to say this: the session is being recorded and it will be made available on the ARC Noves Course channel, YouTube channel. Sorry. If you have any questions about the recording, please let us know. Okay. As usual, I'm going to ask you if you have any question regarding the last homework. You will remember that you had to answer 3 questions on the interpretation of the results from your own paper based on the tables and the figures. Did you struggle to do that? Did you have any problems? Anything you want to ask us? Okay. So you still got time to do the homework if you want. We're not very strict with deadlines. So if you want to do your homework in the next few days and you want some feedback, just feel free to let us know. Okay, so today's session 6, as I was saying before, and we're going to talk initially about the introduction, and we're going to talk about how to find information regarding, the rationale for the economic evaluation, the importance of the economic evaluation, and also how we add additional knowledge. This is all information that we, the team lead, will use to write up the introduction section of our commentary. So just to give you an overview of today's, we are going to try to identify the type of information required to write up the introduction, outline what to expect at the workshop, and obtain clarifications on the aspects related to the development of the RaCEEs. So I will talk about the introduction section, the different elements of the introduction section, quick presentation of the workshop on the 11th of March, and a Q&A towards the end of today's session. Now, the introduction section of our commentary. We have a structure which we need to follow in order to write up the introduction section. And there are different elements which we need to consider in order to write up the introduction section. And I'm going to talk about the different elements in a second. And I'm going also to give you some indication on where you can find information about these different elements. This will be your homework after today's session. So you will be asked to find information about different elements or components of the introduction section. So first of all, we will need to find some information about the prevalence. So the number of people affected by a specific condition, health problem, issue in general. Then we will need to find some information on the impact on the individuals and the caregivers. Might be a clinical impact, impact on quality of life. So in general, how the condition or the problem affects the lives of the individuals and the caregivers. We will also need to consider economic impact. So with this being an economic commentary, we are going to try to take into account, the burden on the individuals, healthcare system, the wider economy from a financial point of view. And finally, the last element which we need to consider for the introduction section is the justification and the aim of the section. Okay, so these are the 4 components, elements which we need to consider. Now, in terms of where we can find this information, or where you will be able to find this information after today's session, it's going to be a bit different compared with previous homeworks. In previous homeworks, you were asked to find information directly from the paper. In this case, instead, you're going to try to find this information from the paper, yes, but also from some other, pieces of evidence like literature and so on. So I'm going to give you some examples in a minute. But it's important to consider that for the prevalence, for the impact on the individuals and the caregivers, for the economic impact, you will need to consider other sources. It's likely that you will need to consider other sources beyond the introduction section of the paper. For the justification and the aim of the economic evaluation, find this information directly from the paper itself. It's usually one of the last paragraphs of the paper you are considering. So the justification and the aim of the economic evaluation is probably the easiest bit to find information for. How we identify the info. So when we, the team lead, will write up the introduction section, we will use some sentences for each element. But it's important we got one or more references to support each statement. And I will give you an example later on with a previous RaCEE, and so you can actually visualize what we mean with supporting each statement with one or more references. So this is valid for all the elements except for the aim, because the aim will come directly from the economic evaluation. So that's the reference there. Now, the sources which you can use to find some information about the different elements of the will come from relevant literature, for example. For example, you can use PubMed to find other papers in the literature where you can find information about the prevalence or the economic impact. Or you could try to, have a look at reports, grey literature from national or international bodies. For example, the World Health Organization, the Office for National Statistics, NICE, or even websites or reports produced by charities dedicated to specific conditions, for example, like the Stroke Association. So there are all different places which you can try to go to and try to find information regarding prevalence, impacts on individuals, economic impact. Any questions so far? Just going to give an example now on how to find information on PubMed, or how to try to find some information on PubMed. Just remember that PubMed is only one of the channels you can use to find some information. So if you don't find any information from relevant literature, you can try to go and look at other sources, as I was listing these sources before. So, sorry, I'll just look at the chat. So Raisa, you're not expected to do a literature search. I will show you what we can do in PubMed, but yeah, you probably doing a literature search it won't be needed for this task, Raisa. But yeah, it depends on how much information you find by looking at PubMed in the way I'm going to show you in a minute. If you can't find information, maybe you'll have to do a brief literature search. But usually you should be able to find some information just using the technique I'm going to show you in a minute. Okay, thank you. So the first thing you will have to do on PubMed, remember that you use PubMed after session 1 to look for potential good economic evaluations which you were going to use during the course. So you now have the economic evaluation, and what you will need to do is type the title of the economic evaluation you're looking at into PubMed, and you will find it straight away. I will say probably it's going to be the first record you will find. You can then click on the record itself, and you will see the article there in front of you. So this is an example, an article which we use for the previous RaCEEs course. It was an article on rapid and ultra-rapid genomic testing in critically ill infants and children. So that's the article we were considering with one of our teams in our previous RaCEEs course. And what you will need to do then is scroll down the screen, and about halfway, you will see these similar articles. So PubMed will suggest similar articles, which will hopefully begin to lead you to the evidence you need, okay? So the topic of the economic evaluation was rapid genomic testing for children, and you can already see that there are some articles here which could be useful in terms of finding evidence around the prevalence, for example, or the economic impact. So what you will need to do is try to, look for information in these articles. If the title is good, in your opinion, click on the article and try to find information in the introduction, for example. And what you will need to do at the end is to extract, which is copy and paste the relevant info from the paper. So literally copy and paste that into your homework document. And importantly, remember to copy and paste the reference as well. And you can do that quite easily on PubMed, because you got a cite button on the right-hand side. So when you open the article, you will see the cite button on the right-hand side, and you'll have a pop-up window here with the full reference. You will just need to click on copy, and then you can paste it on your homework document. I'm going to ask Kath. Kath, do you want to add anything on this? I'm always worried I might have missed something in terms of copying and paste things.
No, that should work. Yeah, if you just click copy, then you should be able to paste it into Word.
Thank you, Kath. Any questions? Okay. So this is the example from a previous RaCEE. This is the RaCEE we've been using it as an exemplar during the course on advanced Parkinson's disease. And I'm going to show you how we wrote up the information regarding the impact on individuals and the prevalence first. So here you can see some paragraphs, first describing the impact on the individuals affected by advanced Parkinson's disease. So you can see here that people might have difficulty walking and talking. This sounds like a relatively simple statement, and it's kind of common sense, but even if it's like that, we need some references supporting that statement. So here you can see we found a couple of references which supported what we were saying there. And then if we move to the next paragraph, you will see some numbers regarding the prevalence of people with Parkinson's disease, the percentage of people here affected by advanced Parkinson's disease. And all of these, again, they came from specific references which we found. And here in particular, you can see an example of the number for the prevalence coming from Parkinson's UK. So if I remember well, this was directly from the website of Parkinson's UK. So this is an example where you can find some information regarding prevalence from the specific association website like Parkinson's UK, Stroke Association, and so on. So these are really good places to find the prevalence data if you're struggling. Another example here is regarding the economic impact. So we had a separate subsection regarding the economic impact. And again, we found some numbers for describing the economic impact. And we had specifically one reference here, Findlay et al., which gave us some information regarding the cost. And for example, also information about the costs were mainly driven by the provision of professional care, which was quite important to outline in this subsection. And finally, just another subsection for the justification for the economic evaluation. So here is all information we found directly from the paper itself. I'm just gonna look at the chat. Lucy, so I read the question, Lucy, because it might be important for other people. If prevalence is from a charity website, is it likely that this primary data, or will the charity have got the data from a primary source? In my experience, I usually find the data from the website, and then they have a natural reference. So to a study, it could be a primary study, yeah. So in my experience, you should be able to find a reference, like as a footnote. I don't know, Kath, if you want to add anything to that.
Yes, I suppose you probably can either reference the charity website, or if you want to trace it back to the original reference, you could use that. If you are referencing a website or some guidelines and you're struggling to find the whole reference, don't worry. Just if you can just copy and paste in the URL where you found the document, then we can sort out the referencing at a later date. So don't worry too much about that at this stage. Does that sound okay, Valerio?
Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you, Kath. Any other questions? Okay. Let's see. Here we go. So I'm just going to talk about the homework today. Sorry, about the homework now. So after today, you will be asked to find and extract the info on each of the introduction components, including the references used. And you're going to have more time this time to complete this task. So we will need this information by the end of February or even by the workshop. There's not really much urgency in terms of that. And you will find the homework document on Teams, as usual. Is the typical table where you can see the introduction item. So for example, prevalence, you got the definition of what we mean with that. Possible sources, because this is not an exhaustive list, right? So you can have a look at other database or other websites if you want. This is just to give you some examples here of places where you can find some information. And then on the penultimate column, you will be able to copy and paste the information. So the sentences which describe the prevalence or the impact on individuals, caregivers. And then the last column is for the references. It could be one or more references which you find for that specific element. As usual, you'll have access to the homework document by clicking on session 6, and then you will see a document with your name. Okay. Any questions before we move to the commentary? To the workshop bit. Yeah. Okay. So this is going to be a much shorter session than the other one. So unless you got loads of questions for the Q&A, but we will probably finish a bit earlier today. I'm going to talk now about the workshop. As you know, the workshop will be on the 11th of March at UCLan. You got all the information on the calendar invite, so I'm not going to repeat that. But today I wanted to give you some introduction regarding what we can expect to do at the workshop, okay? So we'll meet up and then we'll start our workshop around 9:30. And in the morning, we will do the critical appraisal. So you will sit with your team lead, with your other teammates, and you will start appraising the economic evaluation. So far, you and your teammates have considered economic evaluation in a, let's say, objective way. So we just took all the information you needed for the cost, the outcomes, and so on, extracted that information, and then the team lead will write that up later on. During the workshop, instead, we will try to understand the quality of the economic evaluation. Okay, so we will try to really, try to understand whether the authors did a good job in terms of presenting, reporting, or analyzing the cost, the outcomes, and so on. And you will have the team lead with you there. So the team lead will help you in terms of understanding, technical terms or any clarifications which you might need. But in the morning, you will use a checklist, which is a series of questions regarding the quality of the economic evaluation. This is just an extract of the checklist, which we will use during the workshop. For example, let's just have a look at the first question. Is there a clear statement of the decision problem? So you can have a look at the economic evaluation, debate with your team mates, with the team lead, whether there is a clear statement or maybe there isn't a clear statement of the decision problem, and try to answer that particular question. And in the last column here, it's important that you make some note regarding any limitation affecting the economic evaluation. So in particular, when you answer no to some specific questions, just try to make some notes which outline the rationale for that particular no answer, because then the team lead will use that rationale, will use those notes in order to write up the commentary section of the RaCEEs. We will repeat all this information of the workshop, so it's just to give you some introduction now. The checklist is quite long, so I think there are probably 15, 20 questions. We won't cover all the questions at the workshops. Our workshops, some of the questions will be covered by the team leads on their own, but most of the questions will be debated and discussed at the workshop. So that's for the morning, and maybe a bit of the afternoon. Typically, discussions carry on in the afternoon a bit. So, and it's very interesting and a very nice moment where we actually assess the quality of the economic evaluation. And we also, as economists, we try to understand the clinical point of view or the service user point of view. So it's not just us teaching you something, we also get taught something. So it's a two-way process here, okay? In the afternoon, then after the critical appraisal, we will talk about implications for policy and practice, in particular, how the findings from the economic evaluation might apply to health and social care practice. And again, this is the moment where we, the economists, the team leads, might learn a bit from you. So as an health or social care professional, or as a service user, or as an academic expert in that particular field. So these are, I'm just going to show you some prompts which will enable some discussion about the implication for policy and practice. For example, should the specific intervention evaluated in the economic evaluation be implemented as a result of the economic evaluation? Do we need to think about potential adaptation of the intervention for a specific subgroups of the population? Will the intervention be accepted by individuals in social or health or social care professionals? Or again, could the intervention be scaled up effectively? What will be the main barriers and facilitators to its delivery? You won't find necessarily from the paper, and this is, the commentary section is really for us. It needs to be novel, so we need to come up with our own ideas. So, and you will have probably some bullet points following the debate. You will have your team lead with your teammates regarding all these different points. And these bullet points will be used by the team lead in order to write up the specific subsection of the commentary. These are just some prompts, so you might talk about something else as well. These are just some suggestions for debate. And lastly, the last bit, if you do have time, is to talk about future research. So what needs to be done, what needs to be found out to evolve the knowledge of the problem. One thing I will say is don't read the author's suggestions and try to come up with your own first. Okay, so typically in a paper you have a paragraph covering future research. Try not to have a look at that, or try to forget about that if you already read about that particular paragraph, and try to come up with your own suggestion for future research strands. Okay, this is something that again the team lead will write up after the workshop, so you might have some bullet points regarding future research avenues. Later on, you could see if your ideas match with the ideas of the authors, but in general, I would suggest, try to come up with your own first and try to debate any ideas with your teammates and with your team lead. Any questions? Okay. Again, all this information will be repeated to you at the beginning of the workshop, so don't worry. And of course, I'll send you the slides after today's session, so you got all this information available. Okay, so this is the moment for you. If you have any questions at all regarding the course or the work you've done so far, or any question about the workshop, if anything is unclear, feel free to ask us. We got plenty of time. If you got any questions, feel free to unmute yourself or write in the chat. Just checking the chat. Okay, I'm just gonna ask the team leads as well if they have other points they want to say about the workshop, which I might have missed from your previous experience of running a workshop for the RaCEEs. Okay. That's fine. So as expected, this is going to be a short session. So all I wanted to say, or all I wanted to show you is actually this big table, which gives you an idea about the number of sentences which we are going to use to write up the commentary. This is just a recommended number of sentences for each element of the introduction, each element of the method, the results, and the commentary. And just to give you an idea, of the work that the team lead will do in order to write up the different sections, thanks to the work you did or you will do in terms of extracting the information. And it gives you a visualization of all the things we went through during the course, from the method, the costs, the outcomes, discounting, uncertainty, and then the results, the ICER, and so on. And then, of course, what we discussed today in terms of the introduction. So as you know, it's a commentary, so it's not going to be a very long article. Typically, we try to write 2,500 words, but then depending on the journal's requirements, it might be shorter than that, sometimes 2,000 words. So, the team leads will have that in mind, and when they will prepare the final draft, it will be within the word count required by the specific journal we are trying to submit to. Okay, that's it. So that was our last online session. We will see you on the 11th of March, Tuesday 11th of March, for our workshop. If you have any questions about session 6, please feel free to email me. And one thing I want to say is that we will open the registration for the next RaCEEs course soon. Probably when we meet for the workshop, we will have a proper registration link and everything. But if you have liked the course so far, please feel free to spread the word, and it's really important. And we want another cohort of engaged and interested people for our next course. So feel free to spread the word to colleagues, friends, or whatever. So it'd be very nice to have another cohort of people for our next course. Just checking the chat. Oh, thank you, Lucy. Thank you very much. Thank you. So if you have any questions, the team lead and I will be here for another couple of minutes or so. Otherwise, I'll see you at the workshop. And if you have any questions regarding the logistics of the workshop, feel free to let us know. Thank you so much, and see you at the workshop.